All right. Good evening, everybody. Happy Tuesday. We are here again, week 8. Good to see everybody. Oh, there's Amy. She's here. Hold on. Oh, I lost her. Hold on. No. Hold on. Amy, I'm coming for you. Give me a second. Oh, my God. Hold on. That's what's doing it. All these. There we go. All right. Amy, you still there? Okay.
Hi.
You know, your picture disappeared. I thought I removed you from the room instead of admitting you.
We have all kinds of people come in. I am helping you admit everybody.
All right, great.
Zoom's new feature is challenging.
Isn't it wonderful?
Oh, yes.
So well, I appreciate you doing it. I'll let you take that over. So we're going to get going here. We still got people joining, and Amy will continue to admit them with this new security feature that Zoom has. We are fortunate enough tonight to have Darlene with us again. So Darlene, good to see you. Can't wait to hear from you later on. We are going to get going. Does anybody have a win they'd like to share for this week? We'd love to hear from somebody if they had any type of little win, little victory for the week. If you want to raise your hand or unmute yourself, whatever works for you. We'd love to hear from somebody. Hello?
I have a win. This
is
Felicia.
How are you?
I am doing great. How about you?
Good.
So I do a lunch with my parents every Sunday, and they are so not plant strong. And this last weekend, they wanted our local barbecue. This is the restaurant that I have fond memories of their brisket, their jalapeno sausage.
Elijah, be quiet.
Keep
Sorry?
going. Yep, no, go ahead, Felicia.
Okay, so there's not much that they offer that I could have. So I ordered a jumbo smoked potato. It was so jumbo, I only ate a quarter of it. A corn on the cob, and then I brought salad.
Oh, good for you.
And it was awesome.
That's great. No, so you knew going in what you were going to face because you'd obviously been there before. So you knew how to prep yourself for it, right?
Exactly. I'm the one that does the ordering and the pickup of all of our foods. And I generally try and steer us towards things that are amenable to my way of eating as well as theirs. And they had just made the comment the last couple of times that they really wanted just to get back to their old comfort thing.
I gotcha. Okay. Yeah, I can see that. Everyone's, dealing with different stresses and whatnot. And so probably just a little comfort food is what they were looking for. But good for you not going down that same path. That's awesome.
Yeah, I felt good. Thank you.
Good for you. Thanks for sharing that.
You're welcome.
All right, so let's get moving here. You guys hopefully watched Rip's video on salt, sugar, and fat. And we're going to talk quite a bit about that because as I referred to them last week, they are the real beast in this whole food epidemic that we're all facing with the obesity rates going up and everyone, eating themselves into unhealthy conditions, especially as we get older, right? And so part of the thing, that Rip said over and over again in his videos was the fact that, it's sugar on top of salt on top of fat. It's sugar on top of salt on top of fat. And that's really what they're doing to us. And, there's a wonderful book out literally titled Salt, Sugar, Fat. And they talk a lot about how the food industry is using and how they get so much salt, sugar, and fat into our foods a lot of times without us knowing it. And it can be very frustrating because we all have cravings, right? Even your coaches that have been doing this for a long time have cravings. Those don't go away, right? They get easier to deal with because you have the tools and stuff and the techniques that we're teaching here in 10X, and you refine those and you come up with habits and you come around ways to get around it. But ultimately, those temptations, those cravings are still there. But you're more in control at that point, so it doesn't affect you as much, but they're still there. And the reason they're still there is because the food companies know how to trigger you. They know what they need to do to get you to buy their products. And that means putting more salt, more sugar, and more fat in their products. But with the health craze, I put it in quotes because there's the health craze and then there's eating whole food plant-based. But the health craze, people are looking for healthier alternatives. And so if they can figure out ways to get salt, sugar, and fat, continue to get that in because they're all cheap, they're easy, and they make their processed foods fly off the shelves, then it's better for them, right? They don't like to use the word addicted. They like to say craveability or snackability, right? Those are their key words because the addicted word has negative connotations. But yet that's what they're doing. They've got us addicted to salt, sugar, and fat. And that's why, and I'm pretty sure we mentioned this before, and we talked about the resetting of your taste buds. That's the key. And when you start this program and staying on 100% or as close as possible so that your taste buds reset. That's the only way you're going to pull yourself out of that cycle of wanting and craving more salt, sugar, and fat, right? So let's talk a little bit about each. So salt is primarily used as a preservative in foods and to hide the manufacturing residue. Doesn't that sound tasty, right? So that's what they use salt for. And we don't necessarily have an upper limit of the amount of salt that we can handle or taste. But what they do is they slowly increase it in their product, little by little by little, even within the same boxing and everything else. They don't even have to say they're doing it, but they're increasing the amount of salt because what they're doing is they're making it more and more salty because as we get used to it, right, as we get used to the amount of salt in their product, we start to normalize it. And therefore, it doesn't taste as salty or it doesn't taste as good, is how we usually describe it. So they have to keep upping the salt levels to keep us interested, right? We at the Rescue 10X and the 7-Day Rescue want you to get less than 1,500 milligrams per day of added salt, right? That doesn't include salt that might be in naturally occurring products. We're talking about added salt, whether that's in a packaged product, putting it on at the table, adding it during your cooking process, whatever the case may be, we're talking added salt. Sugar. So sugar is probably the big one, right? This is the one that we are geared to want more sugar. We love the dopamine hit. Studies have been done that show that sugar is as addictive as cocaine. And so they have us hooked and they just keep adding more sugar and adding sugar in different ways that we don't even know. Brown rice syrup, that's sugar, right? Molasses, that's sugar. So they're using different words in the ingredients list to hide how much sugar they're putting in the product. And what the food companies actually came up with a term called the bliss point. And what that means is they do tons of studies every year, right? Testing products, putting millions and billions of dollars into testing these products to figure out the exact amount of salt, sugar, and fat, that combination that will get us coming back and wanting more and more and more. So they figure out what's too much sugar, what's too much salt, or what's not enough sugar and salt. They want us to be addicted to that product and keep coming back. So know that your brain, if you are eating sugar, your brain's just going to crave more, right? It's just it's a quick dopamine hit. It's a thing that makes you happy. And so your brain's going to crave it more. Just like we talked about when you create new habits, how to have that celebration because it's a positive reinforcement. Well, that dopamine hit is a positive reinforcement to your brain. So again, for this program, we'd like to have you less than 2 tablespoons of added sugar. All right. Fat. Fat is, we don't really crave the taste of fat. What we crave is that mouthy feel, that fat, that creamy mouthy feel that fat brings to a product. And I forgot to say, when companies are manufacturing products, they add more fat, but they use sugar to hide the amount of fat that's in there. So they can put more fat in if they put enough sugar in there to hide that fat. And here's the problem, is that we have no upper limit. They can keep adding fat on top of fat on top of fat, and we'll just keep consuming that product more and more and more. There is no upper limit, right? With salt, something can start to taste a little salty. With fat, it probably just starts to taste more creamy, right? And so they know that, and they just keep piling it on. And don't be confused when they start talking about healthy alternatives, right? When you watched Rip's label reading video, right? What's the first thing he says? Ignore what's on the front of the package, right? So when they say healthier or low in fat or low in salt, low in sodium. All they've done with that product is if it's a low sodium product, they've just increased the amount of salt and fat. If they say it's low fat, they've increased the salt and the sugar. So they're replacing one of the three with the other two to, again, keep us craving it, keep us addicted, keep us coming back. Okay? And there's a reason why in the late 70s, right, obesity went up. Studies have shown that it has nothing to do with age, gender, where you live, race, whether you have motivation or not. What do you think happened in the late 70s? In the late 70s, the processed food industry kicked into high gear. Between advertising, marketing, putting more products on the shelves, it took off. And you can see what happened to the obesity rates in our country because of that. So it's plain and simple. The reason that we're fighting the obesity epidemic, which is what Dr. Greger calls it in his video series, the obesity epidemic of what we're facing is primarily because of the processed food industry. So that's why we tell you to read your labels, limit the amount of boxed and packaged stuff that you purchase that's not a whole grain or oats or vegetables or something like that that comes in a frozen bag or rice in a package, anything like that. But limit yourself to any of those other products because there's a whole slew of issues that come along with them gaining weight, going off plan, and taking your taste buds back to where they were before you started the program. All right? All right, any questions on that? All right, so as I said, cravings don't go away. And so they just keep coming back. And so how do you fight those? How do you get rid of those cravings and continue to battle those as you go forward? So Darlene, help us out. How do we get out of this rigmarole we're in?
There we go. Am I unmuted?
Yeah, you're unmuted.
All right. So doesn't that just make you so irritated knowing that they're doing this on purpose? It's so frustrating. But the good news is we can win. We can beat those companies at their own game. We can just walk away and never buy them. That'll shut them down. So we actually are designed to crave. Craving is a way for us to be able to get the food that we need. And it's normal. It's awesome, except for when it's not. So if we give our bodies what we need to survive and thrive, everything works out perfectly. When we do that, cravings go away, and this helps us avoid the foods that aren't really good for us. So we just need to set ourselves up for success. We know we're going to crave, and we know we're going to crave bad things, but we can also crave good things. So our bodies are at a base level, they're craving nutrients. So we need to look at eating the rainbow. If you've never heard of that, there's lots of information about that out there. But did you know that every color a plant offers our little cells specific awesome superpowers called antioxidants? There's tons of research out there on that too. And bonus, when we eat plants, we're feeding our microbiome. If you don't know what that is, well, let's just say that we're filled with tiny little good guys. Millions and millions of tiny little good guys and millions of tiny little bad guys. And whoever wins is the ones who is getting that is getting fed the most. So the bad guys love the sugar, fat, and salt, like we just learned about. And the good guys love the fiber and the antioxidant rich, colorful plant food. So how do we do it? How do we go about getting rid of the cravings? Well, one way, like I said, is to get full, to make sure that we're setting ourselves up to get full. I used to have snacks, and I used to crave this or crave that and thought it was normal. And anyway, then I watched Forks Over Knives, then I went all in with Engine 2 and Dr. Esselstyn and learned all of these things. And it's amazing. The cravings have honest and truthfully gone away for the most part. So let's build an imaginary bowl. or a Plant Strong meal right now. Just imagine this. So if your plate or bowl is filled with half, so half of it is filled with greens. That's the broccolis, the kales, the spinaches, the everything like that. So that's half the plate. And then a quarter of the rest of the plate is filled with whole grains or whole grain pasta, potatoes, sweet potatoes, stuff like that, the carbohydrates. And then the last fourth is filled with beans and lentils, hummus, and whatever other kind of vegetables you want to put in there, and some fruit. So sometimes that can be hard to think about and a little overwhelming. So let's imagine a little bit more detail. And if you're hungry, write this down. So if you wanted to build like an Asian bowl, half of your bowl would be bok choy maybe. And then you would have rice, a quarter of it, and then you would have adzuki beans or an edamame with an Asian sauce. And all of these things that we're talking about, of course, they're going to be compliant. So read the label. And then there's like a barbecue bowl. So half of it, broccoli with some pinto beans and ketchup and mustard and some tamari, and then potato cubes, or have that over a baked potato. How about an Italian bowl or a pasta bowl? So you could have half of it be that, you know, that box that you can get in the grocery store, that plastic box, the arugula salad that has kale, baby kale and spinach and arugula. So you get that, and then you get some whole grain pasta or some lentil pasta. You could do that, and then pour some marinara sauce on it, not on your salad, of course, on the pasta. And there's your pasta bowl. How about tacos? How about get a salad mix again if you want it, if you like that, or just spinach or just kale. And then how about some corn tortillas, black beans with a little chili powder and lime juice, sauteed onion and pepper with a little avocado. Doesn't that sound awesome? That's what I'm talking about. That type of a meal will fill you up, or it should fill you up. And then the last example that we're going to have actually tomorrow night is veggie pizzas. So we get some whole grain tortilla, but so we're going to have on the side, we're going to have steamed Brussels sprouts. And then I do just a balsamic vinegar over the top of that. And then we put hummus on it and marinara, and then saute the peppers and onions and the mushrooms and zucchini. Put it in the oven. It only takes 10 minutes at 400. It's awesome. So it's kind of easy it was easy for me when I started to think of half is green, quarter and quarter. So I hope that's helpful for you. And then breakfasts, that's easy. So you can do greens on the side, or you can do cooked rice cauliflower. You can find that in the freezer section. It's a thing. Some brilliant person thought of that. And then maybe a bowl of grains and add some colorful berries and a small handful of walnuts, very small. And yeah, you get the idea. And berries are such a good idea for dessert as well. So how about portion size? I get that. My clients ask me, well, what about portion size? How much should I be getting? Well, you just need to make sure you're getting enough to fill you up. And you'll know, because if you're hungry between meals, you probably needed to have a little more portion size. And the beautiful thing about eating whole food plant-based way is you can eat a ton. You can eat a ton. And I do. My family, we eat a ton. I eat 3 meals a day. And I know that there's some people out there that doesn't work for them, that they'll do fine on 2, or they may need to have a little bit more. But let me tell you what's worked for me and for my family and a lot of my clients. So there are so many benefits to completely emptying your stomach. And I shouldn't say completely, because that would be like going into a heavy fast. But so I eat in the morning around 7, and then 5 hours later, I have nothing but water in between. So then 5 hours later, I have my lunch, and then a big lunch, and then nothing until dinner. And then 5 hours after that, afternoon. So then I eat, and that's it. And then 14 hours, I go with nothing. And it took me a little bit to get used to that at first, because I thought, well, for one thing, I got braces. and they were the kind that come in and out of the, my mouth, and I couldn't eat between those times. And so, or it was such a hassle to do it. I could have, but anyway, that kind of helped me. But the first couple of days, it was a little rough, but then my body started kicking in and thinking, okay, well, if we're going to wait that long, well, we better like fill up here. So anyway, just keep that in mind. That may be helpful for you, but it got rid of my cravings as well. The cravings for the most part went away. After, let's see, how do we do this? It takes just a tiny bit of planning. So I'll just give you a perfect week. Now, I don't have perfect weeks all the time, but this is something this is what I strive for. So I will go to the store once a week, and I will prep once a week, and I will do micro cooking during the week. And I'm not talking about microwave cooking, which that's fine if you want to do that. I'm talking about being in the kitchen for micro amounts of time. And that will get me 3 meals at once. So here's what that looks like. So once a week, I will feel ambitious. I'll get my beans cooking. I'll do my grains. I'll chop my greens. I'll have them all prepared, which I love doing that. I love fresh broccoli. I have tolerated my fair share of frozen broccoli, but fresh broccoli to me just steams up so much nicer. But anyway, so I'll chop that all up in little pieces, have it ready to go. And then if it isn't a stellar week, I will buy frozen already chopped veggies, and I'll have my canned beans ready to go. And then I also have whatever sauces I feel like I'm going to need that week. Dressings, sauces made by me, or, it just from the jars. And salsas, balsamics. I try and always have hummus among us. I usually have 1 or 2 cooked grains ready to go in the fridge, or sweet potatoes or potatoes. So that sounds like a lot, but I know you guys have been taught batch cooking, and I know you guys probably have already done it, but it really, once you do it, I just find that the consistency is the key to this whole way of living, is just being consistent, because you're going to figure it out. You're going to be like, wow, that really stunk. I didn't like that. And then you're going to figure out, well, how can I make it better? Because I'm going to be committed, because I'm doing it, because I know my why. I know what I'm doing. So anyway, so on day, whatever, the next day, I will grab everything I need to. Sorry, I'll prep the night before, always. This is my no matter what. You want to know my no matter what? My no matter what is I will not go to bed. Will not go to bed until I have my breakfast bowl made. So my breakfast is already done in the fridge every single night. And so I'll have that done before, wake up, have that, and I would have had last night's dinner leftovers for lunch. So then it comes to, so I haven't cooked breakfast, I haven't cooked anything for lunch, but I come to dinner time and I will do it the fastest way I possibly can, because I already have all that stuff prepped. I'll just grab some things, put it together, throw a sauce on it, and I will have enough that I can just easily get it the next day for lunch. I will grab my breakfast bowl. I have it in a basket even. I'll have everything there, put it in there, and that's it. So really, there's not more than 30 minutes. If I'm feeling a little fancier, if I want to do a little of something, then of course, I can spend some more time, but get in, get out, get it done. And enough quantity that I won't have to be craving stuff in between. Well, so my clients do ask, well, what happens then if I do start craving things? Then what? Well, if you're eating the amount that you need, so you're not hungry and you're still craving, then you can do other things. Make sure you're staying hydrated. Make sure you're getting half of your body weight in ounces. So for easy sake, if you weigh 200 pounds, you're going to be getting 100 ounces of water a day. So just kind of figure the math. But anyway, so like that's a lot. So drink. That's going to take away some. It's going to get your mind off of off of that. Another thing to do is stay away from junk. Stay away from commercials. Stay away from the grocery aisles where you know you shouldn't be, and stay away visually from the checkout line. You know those eyes don't need to go over there on that candy aisle. And stay away from things on Instagram and on Facebook and on tasty videos, and and they're everywhere. They're everywhere. You just don't look at them, don't entertain them, walk away with your eyes. And the other thing is, if that does happen, if you're full, if you're hydrated and you're keeping your eyes away from what they shouldn't be looking at, and you're still craving, then think, what is my mood? What am I feeling right now? Am I angry? Am I sad? Am I lonely? Am I frustrated? A big one is, am I tired? Tired, having not a good night's sleep the night before can totally mess you up. Those good guys and bad guys, the bad guys tend to win on that one. So get some sleep. What can you do to get better sleep? And if you have to snack, if you're craving something sweet, frozen cherries or frozen grapes, fresh fruit, watermelon, mangoes, cotton candy grapes, I love those. If you're craving something salty, I have found that squeezing lemon juice or lime juice on like apples or watermelon or something, that just really helps that with the salty craving. If you're craving something crunchy, I think this honestly is, sweet is probably number one and crunchy is number two for cravings. So grab some fresh apples. They're so good right now. Some carrots or celery or other raw veggies, or bake your own tortilla chips. Just take plain corn tortillas, put them in the oven, bake them off, and get them out and just crunch on them. And then if you're craving something creamy, go for the potatoes mixed with hummus. I think Amy taught that a while ago. She just, put those two together, and all of a sudden it's like, wow, this is really, really good. It solves that creamy craving. And then you can probably get away with a sliver of avocado, or, a quarter of an avocado every day, or mashed potatoes with mushroom gravy. And if something sweet and creamy is like that banana nice cream that Jane does. And if you're not hungry, just distract yourself. Just go for a walk. Go do the Zach Bush's 4-minute workout. Just get your brain off of the track that it's on. Just do something. Phone a friend. Go into Facebook and post something awesome in this group. There's like, brush your teeth. It's been proven that the flavor of mint just kind of cuts craving. It's like you just brushed your teeth and you don't want to get any food on them again. So anyway, if you have a plan, it's going to work. It will work. And just remember, your why is so powerful. Keep the bad stuff out of the house and let those good guys take over. Let that good microbiome take over, and let those bad guys kind of go away. So anyway, there you go. You guys can do it.
All right. Thanks, Darlene. That's great. Great information there. So Donna had a question. Did you mention sweet potatoes were pre-cooked and then put in a refrigerator?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Yes.
Clarify that, Donna. Wanted to clarify. So like Darlene said, we are going to have cravings. So the key is figure out what your trigger is, so that you can come up using your if-thens, your no matter what. Make sure your why, like Darlene said, is strong, and it's there for you when you need it, when you're craving those foods. And I know, Amy, Darlene talked a little bit about distracting, but I love your story about how you distract yourself when you're away from home and you're kind of locked in a line of some type.
I always joke that the first time I heard the little voices in my head talking to me about food, where when I was trying to get out of the grocery store and there was a Starbucks at the end. And of course it was pumpkin spice season, my favorite season ever. And so I had made a deal with myself that I was going to make it out of the grocery store without going to Starbucks. Already mentally had wrapped my brain around that, but there I am standing in the store, not going to Starbucks, waiting for the lady to scan all my food. And all of a sudden my brain says, if you hurry, you can get a candy bar before you go. Because of course, when you're in those aisles, I don't know if anybody's been to Target recently, but you've got candy on one side, you've got chips and pretzels on the other side with soda to go along with it. And then there's like chapstick and hand wipes. It's like, okay, great. Oh, and mascara and hair ties. That's like your collection of things that you might need on your way out of the store. And so you're bombarded. It doesn't matter where you are anymore, whether it's Target or Walmart or the grocery store or the gas station, they're everywhere. So when you get yourself into one of those situations where you have to stand and wait, and it seems like you're surrounded by food, because you probably are, look up. There are not candy bars on the ceiling. There is not, the Starbucks spiced pumpkin latte is not on the ceiling. Look up. When you're looking up, you can't see the food, distract yourself. Do anything in your head that you can to distract yourself, whether you're reciting nursery rhymes or, naming off your cousins in your head, whatever it is that you can do to keep yourself occupied during that time when you are looking up at the ceiling and not staring at the candy. Because look, I can't speak for anyone other than me, but the second you start looking at the candy bars, all you have to do is look to the side. And then immediately your brain says, okay, well, if I were going to have one, which one would I get? Now, of course, maybe it's the same favorite one that you always have, or maybe it's you're trying to get the most bang for your buck. This is how my brain works. If I'm going to go off, I want the big one, that great big, the one like the Twix bar that's got 4 of them in there. Like I need that. But that's the sort of panic that happens. You're almost done at the store. You didn't buy any junk. You're not going to Starbucks. You're getting out of here. Hurry, get that candy bar and make it worth your while. That's our brain trying to get that dopamine rush. That dopamine is just such an incredible pleasure button. And especially when you're stressed out, when you're standing at the grocery store and you're wearing your mask and they've got the plexiglass and you're 6 feet away from somebody and you're stuck in front of the candy bars and you're trying to get out there without anybody breathing on you, all you can think of is get the biggest candy bar, hurry. So do anything that you can in that time period. Even if you are on your phone and you're looking at your phone instead of looking at the candy bars, or look up. When I look up, I am reminding myself that you can get through this moment. You don't have to have the candy bar. You don't have to listen to that panic dopamine rush button. You don't have to do any of those things. You can remember your tools. If I am waiting in line at the grocery store and the candy bars start calling my name, then I will look up and do some mental math in my head because I don't need that candy bar. So don't forget your tools. Those if this thens will get you out of that moment. And then you can even say this: if I can make it out of the grocery store without buying a candy bar, then I will put $5 away for myself to buy myself that something not food related treat. Anything that you can to get you through that. Maybe it's a new book that you're looking at. Maybe there's a movie that's $7.99 to rent on Amazon or something because we haven't been to the movies in a million years. So maybe it's something like that. Think of something that will help you in that moment, whatever it may be. Create an if this then, be ready. So when you get in line at the grocery store, you're already ready to go and you know you've got that if this then tool in your pocket.
Great, thanks, Amy. And Nancy asked a good question because we talked about earlier that, as you go along, right, it does get easier because you have the tools and everything else. But when does it get easy? And I would just say that that's different for everybody and it's different for every type of food, right? It really depends on how hooked you were, how emotions are tied into it. Amy, Darlene, if you want to add anything.
Ooh, yes.
Go ahead, go first.
For me, it gets easier when something tastes good and I feel good. I'm like, I'm in, I'm done, I got this. And that's when I know, that's when it gets easier, is when it tastes good and when you feel good, boom.
When you can stay away from the triggers long enough, it does get easier. And that's exactly what Darlene's talking about. You'll have that one plant strong meal that'll make you say, you know what? Yes, I feel great. I just ate this much food. I feel really good. I had my greens. I feel kind of energized instead of that feeling of, ugh, when you eat the candy bar or you eat the Big Mac or whatever it might be, that feeling of invigoration from the food that you eat. And it's not a palate thing. It's not a taste bud thing. It's the brain connection to your gut saying, thank you. And you'll feel that. And For me personally, I have to completely abstain. I can't, if I'm after the nuts and the avocado and everything else, it's an inch away from being the peanut butter and the candy bar and the spice pumpkin latte. That's how it works for me. If it doesn't work that way for you, great. But know this, you might have your tools in your pocket all the time, but you'll have a bad day. You'll be super stressed. Maybe your hormones are out of whack today, whatever it might be. Somebody pulled in front of you in the parking lot, you almost hit them, whatever it is that causes that uncomfortability, right? That uncomfortableness that Adam always talks about, the agitated state, that state that if I could just have that little bit of dopamine hit, oh, it would be so much better. I think we've all been in that position. And so it can be a perfectly normal day and you could be perfectly fine until the lady pulls out in front of you. And then all of a sudden you're super stressed out and now you're agitated. So you could be rolling along and just be fine. It's the stressful states for a lot of us that'll push you over that edge of needing and seeking and looking for that thing. And so you might be fine for 6 months and not even think about a candy bar. And then you'll have that day. And just know that the more you practice your tools, the easier that tool will be to pull out of the toolbox when you need it. And in that moment, when you're thinking about that, when you think of that feeling of I need in this moment, I want you to think tools is what I need. I need tools, whether it's your if this thens, whether it's some sort of distraction, keep your hands busy, whatever it is. But when you think I need, if I could just have, I want you to think of the word tools.
Yep, exactly. And that's why, that's why we try to give you as many tools as possible, because different tools work for different people and they work in different situations. So the more tools you have and learn how to apply those tools when they work for you, right? Amy, Darlene, and myself could tell you that, oh, use this tool when you crave chocolate or use this tool when you don't want to exercise. But if that tool doesn't work for you, then it doesn't mean anything, right? Yeah, it may work for Amy, Darlene, or myself, but if it doesn't work for you, then it's not the tool for you to pick, right? So again, these 10 weeks are a great experiment, right? Find something, find what gets you distracted from craving something that you know you shouldn't eat. Find what gets you to get up and exercise. And if you think about making it easier, think about a marathon runner, right? If they're training for a marathon, they run every day. Right? So it gets easier to run every day. They get in the habit. They create that momentum where they're running every day, running farther and farther and farther. But if they take 6 months off, guess what? They're going to have to start over again. They're going to fall back. They're not going to be able to sit for 6 months and then go out and run a marathon one day when they decide to start running again. So it's the same thing with the food. If you go off plan for a day, a week, 6 months, it's going to be harder to get back on because you're going to be starting all over again. Those taste buds are going to have to be reset again. So know your triggers, know your trigger foods, know your trigger emotions. And that's when it starts to get easier, when you start to figure it out for yourself. Okay. That's why we say these 10 weeks is an experiment for you guys to learn what triggers you, what doesn't. How do I solve that trigger when I get there, right? The distraction for Amy works when she's standing in the grocery store to look up. Maybe that doesn't work for you, right? Maybe at some point grocery stores and Targets will figure out how to dangle food from the ceiling and get you to buy it that way. I don't know, but I'm sure they're working on it. So, don't let, the tools that we've given you be the end all. You're going to have to figure out things that work for you. So the other thing we want to talk about tonight is Doug Lisle has a wonderful book called The Pleasure Trap. Adam mentioned it when he spoke, and I'd love to have Amy talk a little bit about the pleasure trap and what that means for you guys in trying to, handle all these hurdles and cravings and everything else. Amy.
Absolutely. Lisa had just asked a question about what's the deal with avocado? Why are we supposed to not have avocado? And this is a perfect segue into that. It's just the fat. So for me personally, and for many of us, fat is a really big issue, but we don't ever see it that way. We always think that it's the sugar. The sugar almost always comes first. But unless you are craving lifesaver candies or, I don't know, a root beer barrel, for example, right?
Dots.
Yes, Dots, exactly. Thank you. unless you're craving something like that, it's generally your sugar is wrapped up in fat, right? So your chocolate is wrapped up in fat, unless you're eating chocolate that doesn't have any sugar in it at all. And bless you if you are. The thing about it is the fat is one of the biggest dopamine receptor highlighters. It goes ding, 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 ding when we eat it. And our dopamine center goes, yes, thank you. That's all I needed in the world. What happens and how do we get in that cycle? Where does that even come from? Well, Doug Lisle, who is an amazing man who happens to be a psychologist, who happens to have written a book called The Pleasure Trap along with Alan Goldhammer. Doug Lisle has written this book called The Pleasure Trap that really explains what happens to our brains when we eat food that is loaded with salt, sugar, and fat. What happens is basically our brain says, oh, thank you, that's all I needed. Except here's what happens. You go from being in the regular pleasure zone of just walking around and being pretty stressed out or whatever, however your day is going, to a heightened sense of, oh yes, remember we talked about the bliss point, and we talked about how different companies are trying to cram more bliss into the food, right? Basically, they're trying to cram more salt, sugar, and fat. For example, you used to be able to just order a pizza, and now you get a pizza that has cheese stuffed in the crust with extra cheese on top with a side of cheesy breadsticks. Oh my gosh, how have we gotten to this point? We used to just eat a pizza, and once upon a time, there used to like come with salad. You would have salad in pizza instead of all of this extra stuff. And now if you look at the coupons and things that come in the mail, you get the pizza, the breadsticks, and you get some sort of dessert thing that's deep fried, and then it's got frosting on top. Oh my goodness, our bliss point is through the roof. And that pleasure point is like riding a roller coaster, because what happens is you reach that, oh yeah, I had the pizza, this is great. And then down you come. Except what happens is when you get down there, you get to the point of like, oh gosh, that was okay. Now I'm supposed to eat kale. Yeah, not really excited about the kale. The kale's just not doing that thing for me because there isn't a lot of salt, sugar, and fat in kale, right? Not really. And if we're not loading up our potatoes by deep frying them in oil, and we're not putting mayonnaise on everything, if we're not doing all of those things, you're not hitting that pleasure trap, that super heightened, oh my gosh, this is amazing, amazing thing. You're not hitting that. And here's what happens. For some people, it can be really challenging to get out of that. You might go along, you might be 4 days doing good, everything's looking great, and then day 4 is really tough. Had a stressful day, something happened, decided I'm super busy, not gonna cook dinner, I'm just gonna go through the drive-through. And then you get back up to that pleasure point again, which makes the kale taste, not really, not interested, not excited about it. When you get to that point, you're cycling up and down on this roller coaster. The pleasure trap keeps you there, keeps you locked in that seat on the roller coaster. So you're up and down and up and down and up and down. And all you want to do is eat the candy bar, have the fat, add that extra salt and sugar in there, all of those things. So you can keep hitting that bliss point in your brain over and over and over again. The pleasure trap actually explains in the book how the studies work when they actually see what happens with birds, with mice, with all different kinds of creatures of why is that happening? Turns out it has a lot to do with evolution, because with the pleasure trap, why do we seek the salt, sugar, and fat? Basically, it really comes down to calorie density. Who knew? So calorie density plays a huge part in this, because back in prehistoric days when there wasn't a 7-Eleven and Pizza Hut wasn't delivering and Grubhub hadn't been invented yet, people had to go out into the wilderness and find the most bang for their buck. Because when you are traveling across the plains, across the desert, over the mountains, wherever it may be to find your food, you're expending a lot of energy. If you have to expend all of your energy finding food, you're not going to have a whole lot of energy left for the one main reason why we're all really here. That's to procreate. We want to continue pushing our gene pool forward. That's how we're programmed, whether we like it or not. That's just how it happened over the centuries, or millennia, actually. That's how we have become this beast. So here we are seeking out across the plains things like honey. Woo, big bang for buck. You got all the sugar. You found a beehive. Great. That's awesome. What if you actually find an animal to hunt, and then you've got all of that fat that's wrapped up in that animal? You get that. That's super bonus. Look at you. Aren't you great? Because you're bringing that home to your tribe. You're bringing that home so everybody can have that calorie dense meal. Those are the things that used to keep us going. And so we have been programmed to seek out the most calorie for the least amount of work so we can still have energy to procreate and keep spreading our genes. And so in your brain, even though you're not thinking about it, even though you don't even realize it, it's those prehistoric sort of subliminal things that are built in to say most bang for buck. Yes, do that. That's good. And that happens to us from the time we're little. We don't know that we're programmed that way. Nobody tells you that you're programmed that way. Doug Lisle lays it all out for you. And if you have found yourself being one of the people who has a really hard time staying on plan, if you're one of the people who can't make it more than, let's say, 4 or 5, 6, 7 days, and then you're eating something that's off plan, you know that maybe you want to read this book. Okay. And if you think, oh, it's not about me, I just like what I like. I like my ice cream. At least watch the video. It's only about an hour-long lecture, and it's on his website for free. I'll link to it in the Facebook group. It's been linked in there before. If you search Pleasure Trap in the Facebook group, you'll find it. But I'll post it again tonight for you. And the reason why is because part of this just has to do with your neurochemistry. This is a really challenging thing to get over. The second you start introducing that high salt, sugar, and fat into your body, it can take a while to really get over that. And so when we talk about stringing days together, as many days as you can without going off plan, for some people, that's quintessential how you make it through this without jumping back on the Pleasure Trap roller coaster. And when I read this book personally, it made a huge difference for me. This is the book that made me understand that I personally am one of the people who can't have just a little. Just a little doesn't work for me. And just a little doesn't really work for a lot of people. And if you can get by with just a little, you are definitely in the anomaly group, because with the way that food has been engineered these days, having just a little is really, really challenging. And so knowing that, this book made a huge difference for me, because I had always tried to skirt that just a little around the bend, just a little along the fence line. If I just have a little, I'll be okay. It doesn't work for me. And this book made me understand the difference. And so when you've heard us say in the past, 85% on plan is much harder than 100%, this is why. And so if you find yourself having a hard time staying on plan, try going 100%. Try anything that you need to do, whether you're doing your roll call sheets, you're phoning a friend, whether you're popping in the Facebook group to say, okay, it's lunchtime and I really want to eat X, but I'm not going to eat X. I'm going to do this instead. If you find yourself in that zone and you really need to get through this, post, talk to us, whatever it is that you need to do to keep pushing through to get 100%, because I'll tell you, it definitely gets easier. And riding that 85 or 90% wave, 75% wave, whatever it is that you've been trying to maintain, is a much more challenging roller coaster than just the smooth sailing of 100%. And it's not smooth sailing all the time. You're always going to have those moments, but I can tell you that your tools work much better. Your tools are much sharper when you're not trying to moderate just a little.
Right. Amy, that was a great explanation, a condensed version of the Pleasure Trap. It's, the book is amazing, the video is amazing, and to be able to condense it down like that was wonderful. Thank you. Thank you. So, Amy brings up a good point. One of the other ways to kind of get you through those cravings is to have a supportive group like this, right? Where if you're feeling that weak moment, you can reach out. And a lot of times it's just having that accountability. Because I know a lot of you live in a divided household where you may not necessarily have that support system right there next to you. Now, you may, which would be phenomenal, that you have a supportive, a support system within your house, even if they don't eat this way, but they can kind of get you some support to get you through it. That'd be great. But we don't all have that. So to have a supportive group like this, or, there's lots of local groups that meet in person. I don't know if they're doing it now, but they meet in person sometimes. So, you can Google, plant-based groups in, Chicago, plant-based groups in, South Bend, wherever you may live. So, keep that in mind as as another option to help you battle the cravings as you're going through it. All right. So the other thing I wanted to talk to you about tonight is overall health, right? We talk a lot about food, and next week we're going to talk about exercise and moving your body. But there's a lot to be said, and especially this time, not only with COVID, but coming into the time of year that we are, where you want to have a really strong immune system. And the way you do that is by changing your lifestyle habits for overall health. So that's, beyond getting a flu shot, right, which is important. The American College of Lifestyle Medicine put out this flyer earlier when COVID was just getting going. And of course, we talk about the healthy eating. So these are 6 ways to boost your immunity, 6 lifestyle changes to boost your immunity, right? We talk about healthy eating. We talk about that a lot. As Darlene said, eat the rainbow of fruits and vegetables and everything else, and whole grains and lots of fiber. We'll talk about activity next week. You're going to get the videos from Rip on, getting moving and why that's important. No smoking, that one's pretty straightforward, right? Cutting down on your smoking certainly helps your lung health, which can help you, be able to fight immunity or have immunity and fight some of the diseases that are out and about. Minding your stress. So we don't talk a lot about that in this program, but I do want to just say this is that, meditation has been a godsend for me in a lot of different situations, and just having that quiet time, that peaceful time, maybe a little music, maybe a candle, whatever works for you, and just find a way to just pay attention to your breath. That's what meditation is. It's as simple as getting and finding that attention where you're just concentrating on your inhale and your exhale. And, some people think, oh, to do meditation right, you can't think of anything else. Well, yeah, the ultimate goal is to, free your brain of all your thoughts and everything else, but your brain doesn't work like that. You're going to get a thought. You're going to get, oh my God, I forgot to do this, or, oh, I got to remember to call so-and-so, or I've got to remember to pick up, the kids tomorrow at 3. That's fine. That doesn't mean you're not meditating correctly, but let it go. Don't think about it. You'll remember it again. Believe me, you'll remember to pick up your kids at 3 o'clock, not just because you just did it now, but you'll remember it tomorrow, or you've got it written down already. And so just find that time. And even if it's at work and something just got you really upset, just close your eyes and just focus on your breath. Even if you can only do it for a minute, you'll be amazed on how it just brings your blood pressure down, brings your heart rate down, and kind of, levels you off. Now, it didn't solve the problem, right? But it may help you think about it and deal with it with a clearer head. Connectivity, right? That just means staying connected with people. And that's a difficult thing right now with social distancing and everything else that we're experiencing. And so, technology isn't a great replacement, but it is a replacement, right? Zoom calls like this, FaceTime, just a phone call if you're old school like me, picking up the phone and calling somebody, or a text, whatever works, just to stay connected with friends and family and relatives. It's a great way to do that, and it's a great boost, right? Just to share a laugh with somebody you love, share a laugh with someone you're close with. There's nothing better than having that friend you can call up and just break into a conversation and pick up like you never left off. And here's the other thing. Think about, if we've been in this situation for 7 months now, maybe you're down your friend list a little bit, but that's okay. It'd probably be great to hear from you. Don't look at it like, well, they're going to know I'm calling. Doesn't matter. They're going to love to hear from you anyway. And it'll be a great conversation. And who knows, you might, pick up a new friend, or rekindle a friendship. It just stay connected, right? That's the important part. Share in the Facebook group here with Rescue 10X. And Darlene mentioned it with quality sleep, right? Getting good 7 to 8 hours of sleep helps so many different things. There's no organ in your body, especially your brain and your heart and everything else, but there's no organ in your body that doesn't benefit from a good night's sleep. So whether it's to help you fight cravings, to have your mood be better the next day, when you're talking about stuff that we're dealing with food and cravings tonight, there's no bigger trap than being tired or not getting enough sleep and having a distraction or temptation that next day. It's a recipe. It's not to say you can't battle through, but it's a lot harder, and it's unfortunately a lot easier to give into it. So get that 7 to 8 hours of sleep. And what do we mean by good sleep, right? That means, quiet. Get the room as quiet as you can. If you don't have total control over it, if you live in an apartment, or the apartment I used to live in, they had dancers above me clogging all night. If that's your issue, get earplugs. It helps. Make the room as dark as possible, right? You should not be able to see your hand in front of your face. That's how dark it should be in your room. Again, eye masks help with that if you don't have any control over that. And then keep your room as cool as you can, right? The cooler you are, your body will get better sleep. So again, these are all things that you can work on to make sure that you're, improving your overall health and boosting your immunity, because that's, especially, like I say, this time of year is something that's really, really important. Okay. So if you do all of that stuff and you're eating healthy, you are going to feed your microbiome. And that's the bacteria that Darlene talked about that's in your gut. And that is where 80 to 90% of your immune system is. So if you keep it healthy with good, whole food, plant-based fiber and foods, guess what? You're boosting your immune system because your microbiome is healthier. All right. All right. Any questions on any of that? I know we covered a lot there in the last 20 minutes or so, but are there any questions? Amy, was there anything in the chat session?
No, I don't think so. People were just kind of chit-chatting about stuff. I'm going to post the new the link to the Pleasure Trap video. And listen, while you're over there, check out Doug's other videos. There's one called Getting Along Without Going Along that's really spectacular. And so I'll post those in there. That's a great
one for the holiday seasons.
It's perfect for the holidays. And if you have not been introduced to Doug Lisle yet, his sense of humor is kind of dry, but he's one of the funniest people I know. And so he'll help you get through it, and with sort of a wry sense of humor that really can be helpful. And so there's a bunch of videos on his website. I'll post a couple of them for you. And just know that we're here for you always. Always you can post and keep us access. Okay. Sam said, I've been waiting for this one. If you are a GPS member, and all that means is you've done 10X before and you've graduated, we have moved the GPS group over to the new platform. You get to be there first. The next 10X class is moving over there as well. October 26th, they will be kicking off on their on the new platform on October 26th, the holiday edition of 10X. And so if you can't access your coursework, it's because you haven't moved over yet. We've been telling you for the past 3-4 weeks now that you need to move on over to the new 10X program. If you don't know the link and you don't have the email that we sent you 2 or 3 times now, I want you to make sure that you're emailing rescue10x at plantstrong.com, and we will help you get set up over on the new platform. The new platform is going to be the home to all things Plant Strong here shortly. The Plant Stock attendees are already over there. Kitchen Rescue, if you have got a ticket for Kitchen Rescue, when Kitchen Rescue is done, you too will end up over on the new platform. Facebook groups and everything are going to eventually move over there, and we hope to have everything all in one spot with one login for your community, your coursework, your events, and everything else moving forward will be on the new platform. So it is not goplantstrong.com. That is the old platform, and that will no longer work for you if you are a GPS member. The new platform can only be found through the link that we sent you in an email. That's the only way you're going to get there. So if you can't find that link, please email us. And for those of you who have heard us say this and I keep wondering about the 10X GPS program, all it is the same thing that you've been doing, but you're doing it again. And the difference is that there's a discount. You already paid for your coursework, so you don't have to pay for it again. So it's not the same price that you paid the first time around. It's actually much less. It's only $36.99 a month, and you can stay as little or as long as you want. There's no contract. It's not required that you stick with us for 10 weeks, any of those things. So Sam, if you are in this 10X class and this is your first time, your coursework is at go.plantstrong.com still for the next 2 weeks.
Yeah. So you should have gotten an email. If you didn't, again, email us at rescue10x@plantstrong.com, and we will get you all set up on the new platform. It's going to be awesome. So you're going to want to be over there. And so the Rescue 10X people, if this is your first time, like Amy said, you're still on the old platform and you'll stay there until you join GPS. The next new class of 10X will be on the new platform. So everything's going over to the new platform. And we are so excited to have everyone do that. The other question was Sheila just wrote in the comments, sugar substitute. So I'm going to guess she wants to know, are sugar substitutes okay? And no. Sugar, again, all those are is chemicals trying to hit that dopamine center in your brain. And so the more sugar substitutes you have, you're really not solving the craving issue. You're not, it's not really helping you in any way. Amy, if you want to add anything to that, but.
Artificial sweeteners, even if it's stevia, which is a natural plant, are hundreds to thousands, depending upon which one, whether you're going with Splenda or stevia, hundreds to thousands times sweeter to your taste buds than actual sugar. And so if you think that you are helping your sugar craving by using stevia just because you don't have the calories, you're actually making your cravings even worse, because your things that have natural sweetness, like fruit, for example, won't taste as sweet as it should if you have amplified the sweetness of your taste buds by using Splenda or stevia. It's not about the calories, folks. We're trying to reset your palate so you don't crave that sweetness in the first place. So that way, when you eat a piece of fruit, it's actually naturally sweet. For example, I can't eat grapes. They're too sweet for me. Can't do it. They're just too much. I can eat tart fruits like nectarines or Rainier cherries that aren't terribly sweet, but like the dark sweet cherries that some people eat, the frozen ones, no way, too much sugar for me. And so it's really about resetting your palate, whether it's dates, date paste, etc., and so on. We're resetting our palates to not crave that sweetness.
Yeah. So again, it's the more you can stay away from stuff like that, the better and easier this program is going to be to continue on and to stay off of the foods that you've gotten yourself away from. All right. So stay strong, you guys. You can do this. You've made it. This is week 8. You've made it this far. Just, you've got to keep going. Don't start thinking about what you're missing. Think about what you still get to try. Right. All right. So unfortunately, this is the last time we'll see Darlene in this group. So Darlene, we'd love to have you say goodbye and any final words of encouragement for this group of 10Xers.
Yes, I would love to. I'm so sad I'm not going to be with you more, but you guys are a great group. You are a strong group, a plant strong group. And I was just thinking that if I had any parting words, it would be to, if you're struggling, I find it helpful to have a hero and to have somebody that can inspire and motivate me if I need it. So one thing I do is I listen to the Plant Strong podcasts. They are awesome. And I don't know how I missed this, but I was listening a couple of days ago to, I don't know what the episode was. Is it 13 or 16 with Chris Wark? He's Chris Survives Cancer. Is that what it is, Amy? Yeah. Yep. It is so amazing. I just listened to that and I listened to Rip, listened to him, and it just inspires me all over again. And I'm already inspired. It just makes it so good. And I just, he talks about what he does in the grocery store and what he eats. And then I get thinking, I can do that. Well, I could do that. I could add some more of that. And I'm not suffering with what Chris did, hopefully, but it doesn't matter. Like, I can get the same benefits. So just snag a hero and go listen to them and turn to them, whether it's digitally or whatever, read a book, get something that gives you that motivation when you need it. That's probably what I would say is you can make it. We're all going to survive through this. We're going to make it. We're going to make it through the holidays. We're going to make it through this COVID-19, and we're all going to be better for it. So it's been my honor to be with you guys. Thank you.
All right, Darlene, thank you so much. It was great having you. All right, so if there's no other questions, how about everybody unmute themselves? So don't forget, the primer's coming up at the end of the month, so make sure if you haven't signed up and you are interested, make sure you get yourself signed up for that and learn all about movement this week. Get that body moving. So enjoy that video. So, all right, guys, here we go. We are 10X. We are 10X. We are 10X. All right, everybody. High fives all around. Have a great week. We'll see you next Tuesday.
Thanks, John and Amy and Darlene.
Thanks, everybody.
Maybe you could